They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
All right, guys, just like the video yesterday, we are going to be going through and we are going to be creating a fantasy basketball all-star team. Now, these are not going to be players that make the most impact for their particular franchise on the court. Players like Ben Simmons, while they may be elite defensive players, players like Rudy Gobert, but they are not stacking up statistics. They are not running up the box score. Those are not guys that we are interested in for this video. We are interested in the guys that have been able to carry their teams to fantasy basketball success halfway through the season. And just like the video yesterday, I'm going to be going through and I'm going to be trying my best to include clips of the players actually playing on the screen in the corner. So if that is something that y'all like, please, please, please tell me in the YouTube comments, because it takes a ton of work. So if you do not like it, if you do not care about it, then I'm not going to continue to do it. But of course, if it's something y'all like to see, if y'all think it improves the videos, I'll be more than willing to go out there and spend that extra time doing so for you. But yeah, also, before we get into it, make sure you drop a like. Make sure if you have not already, you hit that subscribe button. We are trying so hard to get to 3,000 subscribers. And if you regularly watch these videos and for whatever reason you're not subscribed, go out there, fix your life, smash that subscribe button. But let's get going and let's start it off with the starters for the Western Conference. And our first player that we need to talk about is going to be Nikola Jokic. And obviously, this is not surprising anyone, as Nikola Jokic has been dominating regardless of whatever the format you play in. I mean, we are looking at Nikola Jokic coming out and dropping 27 points a night, which, yeah, I mean, that's nothing ridiculous when we have players like KD, Joel Embiid, Steph Curry, and Bradley Beal all surpassing Nikola Jokic on points per night. I think we can just kind of find ourselves overlooking that. But what you cannot overlook is the fact that Nikola Jokic is grabbing 11.5 boards per game. And the reason why I was begging y'all to draft Nikola in fantasy this season was because of his assists per game, which are even higher than I expected, up there at 8.5 assists a game. And he's also coming through with over a steal and a half to go along with that. There's truly no player that is more impactful for a points format or even a category format, as he is averaging 57% from the field and 85% from the free throw line. I mean, Nikola Jokic truly dominating in fantasy basketball right now. And I think if we are going to be talking about going forward, if you do not have Nikola Jokic ranked as your #1 overall player, you simply don't know what you're talking about. All right, so now our next player that we are going to talk about is literally putting his team on his back and dragging them to the NBA playoffs right now. He could easily be doing the same thing for your own fantasy basketball roster. And this is Steph Curry. So right now with Steph Curry, I mean, we know he is going to be the best three-point shooter in the entire game, averaging 5 3-pointers made a night right now. He's also averaging 30 points a night. But surprisingly, he's coming through with decent rebound numbers and great assist numbers at the same time, with 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists to go along with that. And if we are looking at his efficiency from the field, we know that with Steph Curry, I mean, it's not going to surprise anyone that he is carrying you with 93% from the free throw line. To go along with that, though, I am a little bit surprised with the amount of volume that he is taking from the three-point range, combined with the fact that he does not have Klay Thompson, he does not have Kevin Durant, he does not have players to take defensive attention away from him, and he's still coming out and averaging close to 49 to 50% from the field. I mean, Steph Curry, very similar to Nikola Jokic, doesn't matter what format you're playing, he is going to be dominant in a night in and night out basis, and he is also playing every single game. So yeah, Steph Curry owners have to be extremely happy with what they've had through half the season. All right, so I will talk about a player briefly right now, just to get him out of the way, because I know we're going to have some questions about him. KarlAnthony Towns is not going to be included on this list. I know he's elite. I know he's fantastic. but he's only played 6 games so far this season. So if you're not going to have 20 games played, really, you're not going to be drastically helping whoever drafted you in fantasy basketball this year. So I think we have to skip over him for now, even though he could easily be up on this list for the second half of the season. But let's go back to someone who is dominating currently, and this is Damian Lillard. And right now with Damian Lillard, I mean, the efficiency is not necessarily there, only 44% from the field, but with the amount of injuries that we've seen from the Portland Trail Blazers, you did not necessarily expect Damian Lillard to be able to come out here and shoot a very high percentage from the field, because he's asked to do everything every single night, playing 36 minutes a game to go along with that. He's giving you 4 3-point shots made a game. He's giving you 29 points, 4.5 rebounds, over 7 assists, and we know that Damian Lillard is going to be elite from the free throw line, as he is one of the best shooters in the entire NBA, where he is averaging 92% from the free throw line currently. So if you're playing in a category league, that is a number that's so high that he is going to straight up win you that category on his own right. So with Damian Lillard, there's no way that we can keep him out of the starting lineup for the Western Conference with how he has looked so far. All right, so now let's go to a player that has played more games than I was expecting so far this year. So he looks like a great value with where you got him. And this is Kawhi Leonard. Okay, so obviously Kawhi, a top 5 player in the entire NBA on a night in and night out basis. The only question is, will he play back-to-backs? How many minutes is he going to be playing per game? Where Kawhi, really, for whatever reason, has decided that he is going to play those back-to-backs this season. He is going to be going out there and playing a good amount of minutes per night, because right now, Kawhi has played 23 games so far this year. He's averaging 35 minutes a night to go along with that. And you look across the board, there is not a single category that Kawhi Leonard is hurting you in, and he is helping you and maybe winning you some categories on his own right to go along with this, where he is shooting 51% from the field, 88% from the free throw line. He's making 2 threes a game, 27 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and half a block a game. So Kawhi Leonard, congrats. I don't know what else to say. If you decided to kind of take the dice and roll him and risk him not necessarily giving you as many games played as we would expect from some other guys, where with the range he was being drafted. But right now, I think that there is no way that we could keep him off this list. All right, so now our next player was going to be the favorite for league MVP coming into the season. Some people had him ranked as their #1 overall fantasy basketball asset coming into the year. And while he has disappointed, he has still provided us numbers that he needs to be in the Western Conference starting lineup. And this is going to be Luka Doncic. And right now, with Luka, I mean, he's averaging close to 29 points. He's averaging close to a triple-double at the same time, with 9.5 assists and 9 rebounds per game. The one problem with Luka is we know that the three-point shot has not been there for him so far this year, but I am going to stand by the fact where I know, I mean, he takes a bunch of step-back three-point shots that are never going to have an incredibly high rate of going in, but because he continues to shoot them at volume, and because he is still such a young player, if this Mavs team can put any other skill positional players around him that are going to be able to knock down shots, I think that Luka is someone that can start sinking more of those threes. And if he is going to be shooting them at this level, I think that we have to just go, if he is making 10% more a game, if he goes from making about 28% to just say even like 37, that's going to be a drastic impact where he could jump up from averaging about 2.3 three-point shots made per game to averaging over 3 and pushing him over the edge for 30 points a game at the same time. So while Luka has been fantastic, while he has been good enough to make the starting lineup for the Western Conference, I think we look at him and go, he has a higher ceiling than this. I mean, he can take a step past this. So if you can, right now, I would be sending out offers, even though I know it's going to be very, very expensive. All right, so now our next player, I'm just going to have to hold a fat L here because he continues to come out here and shoot the ball at one of the highest rates in the entire NBA, and this is Paul George. Now, right now, with Paul George, very similar to Kawhi Leonard. The question is, how many games are we going to get? I mean, how many minutes per game are we going to get to go along with that? I mean, Paul George right now is dealing with a nagging injury, but it doesn't matter because we're not actually starting these players in an all-star game. What we are doing is we are creating an all-star lineup. And here I think Paul George definitely has to be in the reserves as you are looking at him across every single category, and regardless of if this is a points or a category league, he's coming out here and he's giving you elite level production, one of the best three-point shooters in the entire NBA this season, also giving you 24 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and we know that Paul George is going to be coming through with steals at the same time. So until his three ball does not continue to go in at this rate, I think we have to look at Paul George as an elite level fantasy asset. And if he would have played the 26, 27 games that Luka has so far this season instead of Paul George's 20 games so far this season, I think you could even make the argument that he deserves a spot in your starting lineup. All right, so now let's go down, and we are going to be talking about someone that I know everybody is going to be screaming at us to have higher on this list. But for whatever reason, I mean, the stats have not necessarily been there this year, and this is going to be Anthony Davis. So while I know Anthony Davis, if not the best player in the NBA, he is right up there. But in fantasy basketball in particular, I mean, right now, he is kind of in a slump. I mean, you drafted Anthony Davis for more than this. He's giving you 22 points a game, which obviously we're fine with that. But when you draft Anthony Davis, you're expecting 11 boards at the very minimum. And right now, he's giving you 8 rebounds a game, 3 assists, but the defensive statistics are elite, where he is giving you a steal and a half and 2 blocks per game. But if you're playing in a category format at the same time, he's only shooting 70% from the free throw line, which we know if you're only shooting 0.70% from the free throw line, that is going to be tanking your team in that category. So I think with the lack of elite rebounds and with the free throw percentage taking a dive, we're going to have Anthony Davis on the bench for the Western Conference Fantasy Basketball All-Star team. But let's keep it in LA, and let's talk about a player that if you're playing in a points league is absolutely destroying right now, and this is LeBron James. So I know we are also going to have a ton of people coming out here and yelling at me that LeBron needs to be in the starting list, and I understand in the real-life NBA All-Star game, LeBron is going to be a starter. LeBron, very similar to Anthony Davis. If he's not the best player in the NBA, he's right up there with the best players in the NBA. In my opinion, the best player to ever play the game of basketball. I don't care what anybody else says. But right now, for fantasy basketball in particular, if you're playing in a category league, I mean, LeBron is just straight up killing you in free throw percentage, where he's only shooting 71% from the line, where if you're looking at all of his other numbers, I mean, they're fantastic. This is his best season throughout his entire NBA career from shooting beyond the arc. He's giving you 25 points a game at the same time, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. And with LeBron James, the most surprising thing, in my opinion, is the fact that he has played 27 games so far this year, and he's averaged 35 minutes a game at the same time. Now, let's remember that LeBron James is coming off the shortest offseason in NBA history. So the fact that he is this old, seeing this type of usage, and he is continuing to push through it at an elite level, I mean, I don't understand how anybody doesn't argue for him to be the best basketball player of all time at this point. But at the same time, I mean, if you're playing in a category league, the free throw number is going to hurt you a bit. So I think that's what keeps him out of the starting lineup and puts him behind the players like Luka, Damian, Steph, Jokic. I think here we have to have LeBron with the reserves. But a player that's going to be right there with LeBron and where he's giving you pretty much everything besides the free throw efficiency is going to be Christian Wood. Christian Wood right now, I think that we have to throw him on the reserves. I understand that he has not played as many games as we would have liked to see. I mean, it's not Christian Wood's fault that he has been injured, but he has logged 17 games, so I think it's safe to say at this point that he can make this list. What's surprising to see with Christian Wood is not that he's averaging 22 points a game, not that he's averaging 10 rebounds a game either. Is the fact that he's doing this in only 31 minutes. I mean, I thought that Christian Wood was seeing a lot more usage in this rotation. Maybe this number's a little bit skewed just because he's probably left 2 games early with the ankle injury. So maybe if we throw those games out, we could see that number for Christian Wood bump up to 33, 34 minutes a game. Regardless, it doesn't matter. I mean, he's giving you elite numbers from his field goal percentage. He's giving you the points per night with 22. He's giving you 10 rebounds, a block and a half at the same time. Christian Wood could easily go down as being the best value in fantasy basketball drafts in 2020. All right, so now let's go to our next player, someone that I was begging y'all to buy on the low earlier this offseason. This is going to be Brandon Ingram. And right now with Brandon Ingram, I mean, it's almost impossible to keep him off this list, where he is shooting a ridiculous 24 points a game, 2.5 threes a game, 5.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and the efficiency numbers are decent at the same time, where he's giving you 47% from the field. And if you look at the type of shots Brandon Ingram decides to take, honestly, that's a little bit surprising. I would figure that number would be a little bit lower, but he's also been fantastic from the free throw line with 86%. So Brandon Ingram, I think that it's going to be hard to keep him outside of the reserves at the very minimum for our fantasy basketball all-star team. And I think he's still someone we should go out there and try to target in trade, because if this team decides to move on from Lonzo, I think Brandon Ingram could be seeing even more of a bump up. All right, so now our next player is going to be a little bit further down the list in points per game, but to be completely honest, I mean, it looks like the Eastern Conference definitely outweighs the West in top-end fantasy talent. But anyway, this is a rising star right now, and I know people aren't going to agree with this, but Shea Gildon-Alexander is going to have to make the reserves for me for the Western Conference, where it does not matter what you're looking at. I mean, Shea is a player that's going to be scoring the ball. Shea's a player that's going to be giving you a great number of assists, and he's not going to be killing you in any categories. I don't know what else you would want. He's played 21 games at the same time. And with Shea, he is so young that I think we are going to continue to expect him to develop throughout the course of the season. He plays on a team that is in desperate need for playmakers. So I'm doing everything I can to trade for Shea right now in fantasy basketball before he takes another step up, before he continues to develop his game. Because I think that right now, while yes, he is good enough to make the fantasy all-star game, I think maybe in the second half of the season, he can be even more. All right, now our last player that we are going to talk about, I'm going to be completely honest. As a Spurs fan growing up, I absolutely hated this player. I hated acquiring him because of the deal we did. But DeMar DeRozan, at this point, I can't ignore what he's doing for fantasy basketball leagues, where he is giving us 7 assists a game, 5 rebounds, over 20 points, 89% from the free throw line at the same time. So with DeMar DeRozan, I mean, I would not include him on this list if we're talking about real life real life NBA All-Stars. But this is fantasy basketball. My opinion of an NBA player really does not matter if they're going to be able to go out there and put up the numbers themselves. That's the easiest way to just shut myself up, and that is what DeMar DeRozan is doing right now. Love to see this kind of production from a player that you got later on in your draft. Even though I personally was not drafting DeMar DeRozan, that looks like an oversight by myself. All right, now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. I really hope I did not forget anybody that should have been left on this list, but if I did, go down, let me hear it in the comments section. Let me know who I forgot, why they should be there, and yeah, that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day, guys.